Hello friends, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about painting the miniature sets from Escape from New York. As you know, this just came in, but I did manage to paint all of it. And I want to show that to you today. Also, I'm going to go, I didn't really do a reboxing of all this stuff, and I ended up getting more of the content. In fact, I have all of the content now, except for the playmat. But I did end up getting all the gameplay content, so I thought it would be fun to kind of show you how I organized that into these two boxes. Alright, let's go. There are time codes down below if there's something specific you'd like to know. But I'll try to keep this as brief as possible because I've already talked about it. And I will say I've had an opportunity to play the game a couple of times. It was a lot more fun than I thought it would be, so I instantly, knew I wanted to paint it anyway. But it really lit a fire under me to paint it all and get it ready. Especially since I got some of the figures a little later because I actually ordered them during the last video that I shot. Turns out a year or two after these games come out, there's kind of a scarcity, especially from this particular company, of stuff I could get locally here in the US. So while it's hot, I decided just to get all the miniatures and fill out this box. These other two boxes I will be ditching. There's not a real need to keep them. But they are kind of interesting. If you didn't have this to store it in, they're perfectly reasonable storage. They make it with this thicker plastic. It really seems very durable compared to a lot of the blow-in things. I'll probably keep that bag. And it's the same deal for both of these things. The contents of these are pretty interesting too. This one will offer you sort of more objectives, kind of differing objectives where you're working with the police to do certain things. And this one is a 5th player expansion. So in this game, New York takes a turn between each turn that you take. And this will make that turn between each of you a person. So it gives that there's another set of cards, some different cards in the miniatures for the bad guys and stuff like that. And it's got a different New York board that's made for an individual to operate versus the Automa one that comes in the base game. If possible, I'll make videos with these because there hasn't been a lot of content done with the expansions and stuff. I'd like to do something to stand out, so maybe I'll make some content with these. Let me know in the comments down below if you'd like to see that. I think right now, since we're pulling these out, I'm gonna show you the organization real quick. So this is the base game, and what I wanted to do is make it so if I had to or wanted to, I could leave this behind and just take this if I wanted to go play. Let's say I'm going someplace to play where maybe I don't want the miniatures to be handled in a certain way. Or you can sleeve your cards, but it's hard to keep people's grubby little fingers off your miniatures sometimes. So maybe if you're worried about that for a particular place, you could take this and play with the standees and still have a fun time because the game itself is a lot of fun. I should mention too that I've sleeved all the cards, even these. I used their custom sleeves. My sleeves arrived pretty quick after I did my unboxing and I realized they weren't there. I wrote them maybe an hour after I shot my last unboxing video, and they're already here and on my cards in plenty good order. So definitely thumbs up on their customer service there. All right, so here we have inside the box. So we've got all the little players and New York, and we've got the expansion stuff. Like actually that's part of the New York board, isn't it? No. Probably not. Okay. So we've got everything from the expansion, because I know that one was from the expansion. We've got the expansion and all the regular stuff here. And that all fits in there just fine, just like it was meant to. Underneath here we have the meeples that it came with, and the little standees for the cars, all the bad guys and stuff right here. We've got some barricades. We've got some alternate art standees that I just kind of put aside there. And we've got these little things. These go on the dashboard, so they're going to be important in every single game that you play. These things not so much if you bring the other box. Also over here we've got all the little cubes and tokens and things. So we've got some cubes, Got the little question mark things. You got to be careful not to lose these. And I even thought about putting these in a pill capsule or something, which I might still do, because I've got a little bit of room left over. We've got the realistic resources here, and it looks like some standees. And I've got all these tokens. These are mostly replaced, I think maybe except for these little cubes here, which I might pull out and put in something else. But these are mostly replaced by little pieces in the other box. But they're all here in case that other box isn't there. So I'm completely redundant in my my stuff. I do have some deluxe stuff, like these 3D elements versus these cubes and stuff. But for the most part, it's the basic things. Here's all these square cards, and I went ahead and I took my little non-rotting elastic bands, and I've separated all these cards by type, and so they're all in their little bundles. So, but all the expansion cards and all the regular cards sleeved all fit in this little square space here. That's obviously meant for these cards. Yeah, they fit right to the top there, just like it was meant to be there. Over here, we've got, looks like a loose player aid. And we've got some expansion content. So I took all the expansion content and I separated it by the type. And there's a little look at the custom sleeves. As you can see, they have kind of a little, well, they don't have anything on that side, but they have the surround on that side. Definitely not essential, but kind of neat. Kind of a neat thing. For cards like this, I chose to sleeve them in just these non-matte sleeves that I have. So I did end up with a few extra, but that's alright. 4 packs was more than enough to do all the content. So that's all you need if you get some later somehow. But I took all the expansion stuff, I separated it, and then I took that and I rubber banded it around it. That way, all that stuff's just kind of together. Now, the setup stuff I'm going to be pulling out for setup, for the most part, is separated. But we've got these cards here, and I think all the rest of this are the different player cards. And I took these little player aids. These are also not in one of these kind of sleeves, because then you couldn't read most of it. But I put them in this other kind of sleeve here. And I'm using those to separate these characters. And that'll just kind of make it real easy to know where they stop, especially with all these custom sleeves. There's the custom sleeve again with a character card. And I got that on there kind of loose, but just enough to kind of keep that in order for being orderly. Alright. And over here we've got some event cards. We've got these cards, which I believe are hard mode. I'm going to have to put a note. The hard is covered up on here. So I think these are the hard ones. Let's see. No, they're not. But there are some hard ones in here somewhere, and that's written right here. And then when you sleeve it into the card, you can't see it anymore. So I'm definitely going to have to double check these cards and stuff when I pull them out. But we've got a bunch of different things. Vehicle cards, equipment cards, all of these. These are all individually zipped up and ready to go out onto the table during setup. And that is all of this. I mean, we've got the player board, of course. Let's go and put it back. But it fits in there, no lid lift or anything, and this is everything you need to play. It's even got some dice and stuff, and a little bit from the expansions. The rule books for the expansions are in the other one, but I'll explain that in just a second. And it fits in there just fine, doesn't move around too much. Great. So over here we have the expansion box. And here we are with all the miniatures. There was some discussion about how tight these miniatures are. But what's really clever is they kind of twist. So you can take these things and kind of twist it and they come right out. Like if you try to punch it straight down, it doesn't really work. But you can kind of twist them into place there and they come right out. Just easy peasy. I didn't have a problem with any of them. Now, Snake's a little tighter than the others, but you do, again, you do that little twist. Come on. Oh, yeah, he twists the other way. I twist him a little bit like that. Boom. Not a lot of rubbing, maybe a little bit. What I do sometimes is I'll take these things and I'll punch them in and invert them. But yeah, he twists too, just kind of a little twist and he's right out. Some of them come straight out. And so it's a little deceptive. But things like Cabby here, just give him a little twist and it boop, pops right out. And we got all the places filled in. I guess the one tight thing would be this too. But then again, like sort of much like the other ones, it seems like you can kind of pop these in and out. Like if you go in like that, it just, oh, it's the chain part. So you do the chain this side, and boop, it goes right in. Doesn't seem too bad. There were no spots for, specifically anyway, for the little blue guys, and these are an expansion. These are all little cops. And the president. But there is room right here to put them in. These are all the expansion cards that aren't in the main box. So all of the expansion content is kind of wrapped up into here. There's some things in the main box. I can't remember what I split off exactly, but most of the expansion content that are cards are right here. Right here, I put this down, and this is because I'm trying to keep these things in check. If you put a book down or some rules like that, you really need this. You really need this cover sheet. It's just one sheet, but if you put it on there like that, this will hold all the way around the perimeter, and it just seems to hold it down, and it keeps those things from going everywhere. These I've mostly left empty because the big thing, what these are, they're meant to come out and kind of be little game trays to use while you're playing the game. So you'd put some things in here. I've got my bag of prisoners here. These are the miniatures that replace the meeples. I've got them in a bag in here because I would probably always pull these out and use these things if I had this box, of course. But when I put them in there loose, there's a chance of them kind of going everywhere. These are even more susceptible to that than these things are. So I went ahead and just kind of left them in a bag. Here's the little rings to identify the different characters. Of course, all the barricades are just kind of loose right here. And so that could come out. You might use the rings, yeah, or might not. But your barricades are all good to go, and they're ready to go on the table. And over here we have this bridge expansion. I haven't played this yet, but we've got room to keep your assembled bridge in here. And so, and all the tokens for it. In fact, you can just put those down under it. But yeah, so you don't have to worry about building this and not having anywhere to put it. There isn't really anywhere in the core box to put it, but it does fit in here just fine. And that's it. That is this whole thing organized. All right, so let's talk a little bit about painting the game. So there's something to know with this in that these are characters kind of based on the artwork. If you look on the back of all these player boards and stuff, there's actually alternative artwork. So it's not just the photo, the realistic photo from the movie, but also you've got this sort of cartoon that they've made. Well, these miniatures are based off this artwork. And you can use this as sort of a painting guide, although I already see something that I guess I remembered this shirt was a different color. So you're not getting so much the father from Pretty in Pink, but you are getting this weird cartoon version. And look how blonde this one is. I did not go with that. I've always seen him with dark hair. He doesn't look like he's too blonde to me. He's really blonde in the artwork. I did not follow that. I guess I went my own way with some of these things. We got Snake here. Snake is where you kind of really notice it, especially when you take your time to do it. It's not that he doesn't look like Kurt Russell, but he's not the photorealistic kind of version that they can do these days. Because now, I mean, basically they can almost like deep fake a face onto. I know I'm using the wrong terminology, but in their sculpts they could be very precise and make the dimensions perfect, and be kind of photorealistic versions of the actors and stuff. I imagine there's issues with that, or maybe it's difficult and I'm just full of it. My guess is there's certain copyright issues, so you could do sort of a likeness, but not too much a likeness. That's sort of the way it is with all of these characters. They're kind of like little puffy versions of the real ones. I did use a lot of clips and stuff from the movie as my inspiration for painting versus pulling this box out, which probably would have been more reasonable. I think for the most part they got a lot of things right on these things, and I really had a good time painting them. They're not very difficult to paint. I used contrast paints for the most part on all the characters. I tend to mix regular acrylic paint and contrast paint together. Like a lot of times I'll go for a first round with the contrast paint, and then I'll do highlights or do something else to kind of bring it up and make it a little bit more interesting. Or maybe dirty it down like I did with the lab coat for the professor. His lab coat in the movie was just dirty as heck, so I want to make sure to reflect that. This has a bunch of little cars in it, and one cool thing that I found from my game of this is that it's almost got sort of a Grand Theft Auto kind of vibe where you're kind of running through these cars and you can shoot the dude out of it and then drive it around for a little bit and crash it into things. It's kind of neat. For almost all of the cars, what I did first is I painted them like a metallic color, and then I went in with contrast paints and kind of painted over the top of it. It made them a little bit too metally, metallic looking, but I thought it might be kind of interesting to make it look like it was painted and kind of worn down. I didn't achieve that effect perfectly, but I did really like the look of the little cars, especially Cabby hanging out the window with his Molotov cocktail. There was one car that I left looking like it was in pretty good shape compared to the other ones. It looked like Christine to me, like they slipped a horror movie car in there. So I left Christine looking pristine. Now, of course, one of my favorite cars was the Duke, who has these big chandeliers on the front of his sedan. They 3D-ified a few other tokens in here, like the suitcases with the 1, 2, 3, and 4. I basically did leather on the suitcases, some chainmail for the chains, and then like a ghost gray for the numbering, which I just kind of carefully picked out with a brush. It is raised up a little bit, so it's really easy to paint that, and then touch it up a little bit if you mess up. They also have this event token, which is just a burning garbage can, and the glider, of course, which in the movie was like basically this all black thing. So I kind of did the same thing where I painted it with a metallic color, and then I painted these blacks. I did a matte black for the window, and then a regular black for the rest of it. It didn't come out perfect, but I think it's fine for what it is. The helicopter, I spent a surprisingly large amount of time on trying to get it right. I ended up just kind of doing a stripe and a little dot. You know, that's all I was going to do, like a little police and some numbering and stuff like that, but I decided to maybe leave that for another time and just keep moving through. All right, so now we get to the prisoners and stuff. So the prisoners and the cops, I kind of painted in the same way. So there's no way, there's a surprising amount of detail on those little teeny tiny, I don't know if they're 10 millimeter, probably not, probably a little bit bigger than that. But these teeny tiny little, these characters. So the prisoners especially, there's a lot of them. There's a whole lot of those prisoners. So what I decided to do is use a sort of more of a tokenized painting system. So they're technically painted miniatures in that I'm throwing a red contrast paint on all the prisoners. This automatically gives them a little bit more definition and stuff. It makes them look pretty interesting. You can go back over that too with a regular acrylic paint and kind of dry brush it up and bring up the highlights and emphasize that even more. But it is kind of a way to make those little interesting plastic guys stand out even more. They're pretty nice. They're pretty nice little miniatures, but they stand out even more with a little bit of contrast paint on them, making them, I don't know, I think it visually makes them a little bit more interesting. Even though it's not something I would traditionally want to sit and paint. Now, if you want to paint each of those individual guys, maybe give them a different outfit, who knows? You're still going to have to kind of color code them as red. I mean, the only thing you'd really confuse them with is maybe these cops. There's not nearly as many of the police officers as there was the prisoners, but I did them in the exact same way. The blue that I used was a lot darker though, and these guys definitely needed a highlight to kind of have that sun-dropped look. That's a painting technique I'm finding I'm using more and more. I've got a couple of more videos, like short videos, that I'm going to post about doing that with some other kind of games. I'm experimenting with Tan Garden. Tan Garden will be one of those videos where maybe you guys can help me decide which technique to use on there. Alright, that's about all I got. It's time to box all this stuff up and call it a day. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you made it this far, go ahead and click like. Really appreciate it. Maybe you'd like to see some more. If that's the case, hit subscribe, because I'd love to see you again. Until next time, enjoy your games, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.